Hello, fellow gardeners. Today we're going to learn to create sweet potato slips. The sweet potato slips are how you grow sweet potatoes. Unlike regular white potatoes, you don't plant the actual sweet potato to grow sweet potatoes. Instead, you use the sweet potato to grow slips. And today in Granny Geek's Garden, we're going to learn just how to do that. Sweet potatoes aren't actually potatoes. They're root tubers from the morning glory family. They're a tropical plant, thus they need heat, humidity, and sunlight to grow well. Both regular potatoes and sweet potatoes are native to parts of Central and South America. The sweet potato is a root tuber, which is a swollen, fleshy root that serves to store energy and nutrients for the plant. There are two ways to get your sweet potato to create slips other than buying the slips pre-grown from the nursery or online. And those are the water method and the soil method. I personally prefer the soil method. It's just less hassle. You don't have to worry about changing the water regularly. And I've just had much better luck growing sweet potato slips using the soil method. So to get started in growing those sweet potato slips, we're going to need a few supplies in addition to a couple of sweet potatoes. I'm going to use a tray. It's solid, doesn't leak. And another tray, very similar, but this one has drainage holes throughout. And a lid. Now, to get started, we're going to use some potting soil. Okay, I've got potting soil. It's just damp. I'm going to put about an inch or two. This is my regular potting soil. It's not seed starting mix. It's nothing fancy. Okay. This is probably a little bit dry, so let's add a bit more water to it. Okay, so now it doesn't squeeze water out when I squeeze it, but it stays pretty together. And then I'm going to take my sweet potatoes and I'm going to arrange them. And let's see, we'll do another one. And this is one that I took out of my garden last year. And here's one more that came out of the garden. We want to leave a little bit of space between them. And then we're going to add in a bit more soil around the edges. We want them to be about half covered with soil, but not fully covered. And then we're going to just put the lid on them and put them on a heating mat. I'm going to use the same heating mat I'm using to grow my ginger. And that's where they're going to stay, checking them periodically to see if I've got any sprouts growing. The sprouts will come out of usually one of the ends. When the sprouts start growing, they're going to be a vine. In fact, if you've ever grown any sweet potato vines that are often grown today as an ornamental plant, there are black ones and bright green ones. Those are the same types of vines that we're going to get with our sweet potatoes. In fact, if you grow your sweet potato vine, your ornamental sweet potato vine, well, and at the end of the year, before it completely dies, you're actually able to dig a tuber similar to these tubers, overwinter them in a cool, dry, dark space, and then in the spring, you can actually plant them and regrow your sweet potato vines. As your sweet potato vines grow, they become a vine and will have, where leaves come off, there are little nodes that have tiny roots come out of them. If you allow the vine to continue growing, you may have numerous nodes along the growth, and you can cut just below each one of those nodes that has the tiny roots come out of them. Put those in water, allow the roots to grow, and those are then called slips. That's what you plant in your garden to actually grow the sweet potatoes. When you're choosing your potato, your sweet potatoes that you want to grow slips from, usually older sweet potatoes work better. They tend to sprout a little bit sooner. They like an area, a warm area, 80 to 85 degrees. That's 27 to 29 Celsius. And they'll sprout in a few weeks. After you grow the vine and cut it into slips and root those slips, once the weather gets warm enough outside, it's ready to put it in your garden. When it's warm enough to grow the slips outdoors, which is a soil temperature of about 65 degrees, you can go ahead and instead of putting the slips in water, you can just go ahead and plant them in your garden. But if you plant them in the garden before the soil is warm enough, they'll just sit there. They won't grow or do much. The sweet potatoes will sprout in a few weeks, and Be sure to give them plenty of light at that point. A few things to remember. Sweet potatoes are tropical and require warm temperatures and plenty of sunlight. 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day is good. You want to fertilize them when you plant them with a well-balanced fertilizer, and then again periodically throughout the growing season. They are heavy eaters, so follow the instructions on your preferred fertilizer on how often and how much to fertilize. It takes the sweet potato slips about 120 to 160 days to harvest. So when the foliage starts to turn yellow and die back, or just before your last frost, is a good time to go ahead and harvest them. I grow my sweet potatoes in grow bags, so when I'm ready to harvest, I just spread out a tarp, dump the grow bag out on the tarp, and can sift through with my hands to collect the sweet potatoes. If you plant them directly in your garden, in the soil, do be careful when it comes time to dig them up. You don't want to cut them in half or pierce them or in any way damage them. If you do, those should be some of the first sweet potatoes that get eaten. Don't try to store them. Also, sweet potatoes are technically perennial plants, which means that they will come back year after year. Now, when you dig up your sweet potatoes, if you leave roots and you are in an area that doesn't get really cold temperatures during the winter, like not much below freezing, the remaining roots may grow back a new crop of sweet potatoes the following year. However, that following year's harvest probably won't be nearly as good as it would be if you were to regrow and replant slips. After harvesting, your sweet potatoes will need to be cured in a warm, humid place for about 10 days to improve their flavor. It gives them better sweetness and their storage life. Later this fall, at harvest time, we'll go through all of that again. After they've been cured, you will want to store your sweet potatoes in a cool, dark place until they're ready to eat. Now I've got my sweet potatoes that we just put in soil sitting here ready, and now all I have to do is put them on the heat mat and they can start getting ready to sprout. So here's my heat mat. Got a few other things down here. It's currently set at just above 80 degrees, so the sweet potatoes should be happy. And I will be checking on them every few days to make sure how they're doing. And although they don't need light right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave the lights on because I do have a bit of growth coming in for my ginger and some of the other items I have on the heat mat. And that's all I've got to say about planting sweet potatoes, at least for now. I hope you learned something new today. I'm so glad you stopped by to spend some time with me. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, I'd really appreciate a subscribe, a comment, a like, and share me with your friends. That's all for today. I hope you have a chance to go out and dig in your dirt. Take care and be kind. Bye-bye.